Hello again, welcome to European Autocross Studios 944 Turbo Project Transmission Edition. Well, we're going to try to wrap this up today, get this, finish up fifth gear assembly here, and get this case back together and be done with this transmission because we have another one coming, one that we're really going to rebuild and measure and check everything, and that's coming in a couple of weeks. We'll be able to show you that. Hopefully you want to see it. I'd like to really show you how to use the 385 bar, do the measurements in the case, the backlash, preload on the bearings, pinion depth, which is very important, all those things. I can show you on that other transmission. I kind of made arrangements to where that transmission will pay for the tools I need to rebuild the transmission, and we'll have everything we need. It's going to be great. The only problem I'm having is there are so many shims in these transmissions to shim gear heights, even this one here for fifth gear. So many of these are not available. I wanted to get the entire set of shims so I could have, one of each size at least, and then go back and if I use that size, replace that size. But boy, they're hard to come by and they're very expensive. So I think I mentioned this last time. We're going to have to do this on a case-by-case basis. But in the meantime, I'm going to keep searching for shims so we can have a whole set of shims so we don't have to stop what we're doing and we can actually measure, install, measure again, and make sure we get it right. Plus the cleaning process, boy, it's hard to get help. We had an electrician ready to go get our three-phase converter in for our compressor, and he bailed on us. So it's been a struggle, been a real struggle. So we're just going to continue on whatever we can do. But the other transmission we're getting from Jeffrey, it will get blasted, cleaned, painted, everything will look brand new when it's done. All the hardware will be plated the way it should be, and it'll look brand new. We'll show you all that process as well. So for now, also take a look at our 928 video that's coming out. I'm not sure when it's going to be. It might be later today, Monday, next week, who knows. But we're going to try to get that up, that 928 video we did. Plus, there's going to be a lot more coming. Our 308 is here, the Ferrari. We're going to get started on that. That'll be a whole other separate set of videos. But well, anyways, let's get started on this. I babbled enough. Okay, fifth gear. I always have the directions out, the workshop manual, at least the parts I'm using. Just helps guide me. I'm getting old. I don't remember anything anymore. So the first thing, when we get to this point, they want it clamped in here so everything is up here and supported. We're supposed to take a depth measurement. Again, I don't know the depth gauge either. A depth measurement here so we could place this shim or verify that this shim is good, the correct thickness. So we're just going to put the old shim back on and get the fifth gear wheel on. It's supposed to be heated, but this one I actually tried it. It drops on pretty easily. So we can put this fifth gear. It's connected right to the back of the input shaft. And of course, everything will be torqued properly in our Jeffrey transmission. I'm going to have to come up with a nickname for that one. So that's that. We've got the fifth gear clutch assembly, or it's just a sliding collar. Same thing, but you can see the distance of the throw between the fifth gear, and this is what actually moves for reverse as well. So give that a little tap. Very gentle, doesn't need much. And there we go. Okay. Alright, so that is our fifth gear sliding collar and reverse. No, reverse is inside, but that's the shaft that drives reverse. Alright. That's on there, our snap ring. And then You know, actually, it's this that they're calling the clutch. I guess it's got a little mini synchro. We did this measurement before, and that is in really good shape. So, fifth gear, not much goes wrong with fifth gear. Well, that's gonna might be heated. Maybe we'll warm that up a little bit. Oh, there it is. I was gonna say it worked before. See, got a little bit of play in there. And our dowel sleeve. This little dowel pin is gonna lock on. In fact, I'm gonna see if I can engage this. I probably can't. Yeah. Oh, we're a little too low. There we are. And we're just gonna drive that pin in there. All right, that's our fifth in reverse. Can you get that? Okay, so now in a race, these are hot. Ouch! Yes, they're hot. We had to warm them up just to get them to cooperate. That's nice. And that's it. A simple fifth gear. We got a shim measurement. Our shim fixed wheel, and this is our what do you call it? The loose wheel. And if you look, you know, you can see these aren't lined up, and that's mainly because of the positioning in the vise here. They will, once everything is together, this will be pulled up into the back case with the bolt, and these will line up. So it kind of looks funny now, but they will line up quite nicely, I assure you. Back cover, again, this would be cleaned and blasted real nice. This bearing's in really good shape. We probably won't be changing that. Simple. Our hardware for this, which, well, it's the washer. All this stuff, we've been using new lock washers, although I don't even think these aren't lock washers. No, these are not. Fixed flat washers. We'll be putting new flat washers. We also have the shield that goes on here that we would be painting. Not important for right now. And remember, we're missing the tab to lock in the this washer's missing too. Wow, that's okay. That's okay. I'm just excited to get the other transmission. We can actually do a good job on that. This one will go on the shelf, and we'll get back to this one, and we'll do a nice job on this one too. Just a matter of time. All right. Last piece, this triple square. Oh, that's hot. Ouch. Yes, I'll be back in the burn center this weekend. Taking care of all of that. All right. So we just warmed those races up because those are the only things that really needed to be expanded a little bit. And it even says, if necessary, give it a tap with a pipe. I don't usually use a pipe. I use aluminum mandrels. They don't do any damage at all, not even a little mark. So that's why I like to use the aluminum. So the outer race is on, and that's going to snug up the input shaft to the back case, which is secured to the main case. And our triple square driver. And what I would do, I would clamp the coupler in the vise so I can actually put a torque wrench on it and torque it. That's not necessary for our purposes here, but you will see all those really cool procedures with the next transmission. Okay, give us a minute. We're going to change this all around. We're going to get ready to put the ring gear in the case, and then we can assemble the rest of the case of the back half. We'll make them together and get this wrapped up. Okay, phase 2 of today's video. We're just going to drop in the carrier assembly, and then we'll put the cover on and then assemble the pump, the gear oil pump. with a little check valve and stuff like that. It's a pretty cool little pump. This obviously is the pump drive gear. So pretty simple. Now we have to assume we already did our measurements, which we're going to do on the next transmission, which I'm very excited about. Our speedometer drive gear is on there. Can't see the drive moving, but that's okay. It's pretty simple. We just put the cover in the correct position. There's no gasket, no seal. We would use the Loctite 574 or an equivalent sealer on here. I like the 574. It works really well. Okay, I just can't see anything. Ah, there it is. All right, so it is a snug fit in the cover. You can heat the case if you want. You know, I probably would do that on the next one. Some of these have paint on them, some of them are rusted. But I will show you the entire plating process that we do. It's really quite nice. All right. There, they just made contact. I'm not going to torque them all in place. There's no need to do that. I can feel there's very little turning torque. If you torque this to the correct torque, it still probably won't have the correct turning torque. It's very, very loose. And that's something that we would be adjusting correctly before anything goes together. But you can see the drive, how the pump drives. The driven gear, this is the part that obviously goes with the drive gear. Makes sense. And it'll rotate in, looks like this direction. The oil will be picked up, slung around the gear, and then out through a port here. And that's how the gear oil will get out. But it has to pass through a check valve. I'll show you that. Filter screen, just in case you have a lot of broken gears and teeth in there. This will prevent it from getting into this little pump. Check valve. This keeps the gear oil in the tube while you're driving. If the gear oil is hot, it's going to flow real nice. So every time you come to a stop in traffic, all this oil is going to flow right back down and go back into the drain back into the case. So to prevent that, they have a little check ball, and that will allow the pressure to go out, but not bleed back down into the case. And our little cover, there's a bushing. Bushing's in good shape. Again, we're going to check all of this stuff and be real mindful of everything that needs to be done without any sacrifice. There we go. Sacrifice. That didn't really sound right, but you know what I'm getting at. Everything's going to be perfecto. Dang it. Okay. I'll just snug these up. In anything you do on these transmissions, or even on the engines, if you feel any resistance and you're not sure, don't tighten it. Take it apart and find out why it won't assemble properly or smoothly. Some things are a little bit tighter putting together, but if I'm tightening these bolts and I see a gap and it doesn't want to close tight, we know we have a problem. But that's not the case here. So I can look down inside there and I can see the gears moving. So all that's in good shape. We're going to get the case vertical and on some blocks of wood, so when we assemble the rear case, the shaft won't hit the bench. It'll stick out just a little bit. And if it hits the bench, we're not going to be able to tighten it down. It's going to be awkward. So we'll be right back for that. All right. It took two of us to drop this in because it's so heavy. That's why you didn't get to see that. Pretty straightforward. Just make sure the input shaft lines up. It's down underneath and it's not hitting the table, which is good. Pretty straightforward. What I did have to do is rotate. I put both half shafts in, stub axles, and I rotated it so it would engage the pinion. It dropped right in. The only thing we have now is we have some resistance from the dowel pin, which was expected. This is an old dowel pin. Those generally get replaced along with everything else that we did not replace. So that'll just come down flush, nice and easy. Everything still turns. That's a good sign. And we can put our bolts in and tighten these up. These will be nice, shiny, replated bolts, or new, we'll see. Or, actually, these may have been black. I'll have to look at the correct color. They may have been black oxide. So with the, when you assemble this correctly, we're going to have a little bit of a gap. When we do our measurement, we're going to have no dowel pin, so there'll be no resistance. And if there's no resistance from the dowel pin, and you don't have to hammer it down, there will be a gap because we're compressing the bearings on the pinion shaft, and that'll create a preload. We want that pinion shaft to be tight on the bearing. And right now, I don't know where it is because we didn't do any preload measurements on that, and turning torque to make sure that it's tight to turn up to a point. That's kind of what they're looking for, specific turning torque value. So that's that. The case is now together. Let's see if I can rotate this without dropping it off the bench. Daring. And we're going to put the shifter back in, if I can find it. Where's my shifter? There it is. There's also a seal on the other side that has to be replaced. It just rides up against the side. Over here, it's in a little hole there. So this will go in. And this is the tab that engages the 3 rods. Like that. Glasses back on. You noticed I haven't put the plug in. Now, of course, this plug has to be replaced. It's a one-use plug. But if I started assembling this and ran into a problem and forgot something, I would have to knock this plug out and take this shaft out again and ruin the plug. So this would probably be one of the last things I put in, just in case. Look at that, I missed a bolt. See, that could happen anywhere. Just in case I have an issue, I don't want to have to get a hold of my parts supplier and buy another plug for 15 bucks. So that's why I didn't put that back in yet. So let's go to, I have some bolts here somewhere. It's got I would put a little bit of oil on this. This is what rides on this. It slips back and forth on that. And that spring that I'm compressing right now is that spring that you feel on the shifter. I think it holds it in the 3/4 gate, and you have to pull it over for first and second. Well, I haven't driven one of these in a long time. I've had 4 944s over my lifetime. 2 normally aspirated, 1 turbo, and 1 turbo S convertible. 1 S convertible, S2 convertible, not a turbo S. All right, that's it. I'm going to get it back down off of the boards, get it laying flat, and I'll get the shifter stop piston in there. So in 1 second, we'll get this moved around. Okay, we are back in position here, and we're going to put the little shifter. It's not really a detent. It just sort of puts pressure on the top of the shifter. Maybe prevents it from rattling. I really don't know, but now that I'm trying to explain this, I'm very curious myself, so I'm going to try to find out what that exactly is for. But, okay, that's that. We can put the stub axles in, and then I'm going to run through the shifter. I'll run through the shifter. Try this so you can see it. I didn't clean these out. This is going right back on the shelf the way it is. Again, no torque. I'm just putting it together. For those of you who are just joining us, the transmission is not being fully rebuilt. I'm glad we got to have something to do a demo to show how it all works. I'm sure you guys are getting bored of this because we're not really fixing anything, and that's frustrating to me as well. So, I didn't put the shield on. I'll put that on later. It's not necessary right now. We also have the shift transitioning rod that goes on here and sends this out through the tube for the shifter. All that'll be in a box and go with it later. Now there's a tool you can put on the selector shaft here. This is seal I was talking about earlier. That seal will come out and get replaced. There's a tool you can slide on here to handle, and you can run through the gears to make sure everything is okay. I don't have that tool, not yet, but I do have a pair of vice grips, but I'm not going to put that on the shaft because it can damage the shaft. But I do have some copper. I just have some old copper roof flashing. I don't even know where I got it, but I've had it forever. And that'll protect the shaft from the vice grip, so I can crimp down on this pretty tight and it won't damage the shaft. So I can do that and go through the gears. So you can see if I turn the input shaft, we're in neutral, really, and all our gears here. I think that one's that's reverse, right? Wait a minute. The engine turns this way, so that's reverse. Fifth. And let's see, one would be this way. Nope, that's more like fifth. Anyways, I have no idea. It's also different now because back here you're turning this way, moving this way, the shifter this way, and this whole transitioning rod moves things around. I can't think that fast. Anyway, I have all my gears. I know that. I counted them, and everything works. So I know things are a little bit loose in there. I don't like the carrier being that loose. I don't like the pinion shaft the way it is. I mean, without not knowing if I have the right preload on the bearings or the depth. I'm sure the depth is right. Nothing has changed in there. We haven't changed anything. So it should be correct. I think what I'll do on the transmission we're getting, I think I'll pull the cover, clean the ring gear, and I'm going to rotate it with some Prussian blue. We'll get a look at that, and then we'll pull the pinion out, pull the ring gear out, and then we're going to do a pinion depth measurement to see where it is to begin with, and you get to see all that. That's coming up in a few weeks. Next week, we're running out of things to do, but I think next week what we're going to do is reassemble that fuse relay panel that we took apart a long time ago when we thought we were rebuilding this car for real. So I have a whole pile of parts for that, and I'm going to show you how to put it back together, how to inspect things in the fuse relay panel. Don't throw away your old fuse relay panel. You can take it apart and clean it. Don't waste money buying a new one. It's not that difficult. There are a few things. I think I'm going to try to get some, I have to get some cleaners, maybe some uric acid to clean some of the corrosion that I have in there. There's some areas that are burned. We're going to probably just file away some of the burnt material that sort of built up and clean that up a little bit. Might have a few scars, but it's going to work perfectly. So we'll see you next week on that. I'm really disappointed with the way this whole transmission went. I thought we were rebuilding this for real. Very disappointing. But thanks for watching. Please show your support. Send some comments. I miss you guys. I only got one comment this last week, and very depressing. So talk to me. Tell me what's going on, what you want to see. Another good transmission coming. We're going to rebuild the whole thing. It's going to be great. More electrical stuff and whatever else we can do. Plus, watch for the 308. That's coming up in a few weeks. You're going to see that car come apart. The 308. It's an 82, I think, fuel injected. Doing a lot of work on that, so that'll be fun. Oh, while I'm thinking of it, come take a look at our Lamborghini we're working on too. There are a few perks to the job getting to road test one of these cars. It's here for just a major service and some other work. We do a lot of work on these along with many other types of cars. So we don't have any videos on these. They're usually in and out within a couple of days. They're not a long-lasting project. Up on the lift here, if you can take a look up, you'll see the TR3 going together with a new radiator, rebuilt steering box, and some other miscellaneous things. We're looking for a bigger shop, looking for investors, all kinds of stuff going on. It's been a long, long time in this little place, and we're getting kind of outgrowing it. So enough of me babbling on. So we'll see you next week. Please like, subscribe, and all that good stuff. We need your support. Thanks.